Okay guys, so for today's video I want to talk about something that's been on my mind a little bit because I know it's something that I've struggled with before, and I've touched on this a little bit in the past, but maybe it's never hit me like it is now. And it was something I was talking about with my wife the other day where it was just a really good realization. It was a really good reinforcement on what we need to do, and I think a lot of people this will kind of hit home with as well. And thank you for the messages on the last video. That one I wasn't sure. I felt called by the Lord to make that video, but I've never put myself out there in that manner. I've definitely touched on my my beliefs in Christianity and that Jesus is Savior. I've touched on that before, but never into that much detail. So I got a lot of good messages and feedback where that seemed to hit a lot of people, and I appreciate that. And I think one of the things that's difficult for me is I was always scared to put myself out there in that sense, and I don't want to isolate people, but I think it's important that I have this small platform. I need to utilize it in that way. And then the other thing is, I don't know. I never want to come across as like a Pharisee type person where I'm like, oh, I'm living so righteously and I never make any mistakes or sin, because that's far from the truth. I'm definitely changed since I became filled with the Holy Spirit, and I try to do things as well as I can. I try to live as best I can, but I'm still far from perfect. So I never want to come across as like holier than thou. Now, as far as this video though, basically I was talking with my wife the other day about we need to be our own person. And like, sometimes you guys don't see this, but I truly struggle with like what direction to go with as far as posting videos like this, or with Instagram, or just my direction in life as far as like who I am outside of a child of God. And so I think it's easy to look at certain content creators or influencers or whatever you want to call them, other lifters, because a lot of you guys are in the powerlifting sphere and the lifting side of things, and we see what they're doing, we see how they're living, we see all the things, and we try to almost emulate them. We try to impersonate them. We try to adopt a lot of their behaviors, or if it's lifting, their setup, how they act, their mannerisms, all this stuff. And I think in my case, sometimes I would look at other people who were what I deemed successful, had a bigger audience, and I would be like, well, I need to do things how they're doing them. I need to be an influencer. I need to make my videos with all this flashy editing. And it just never felt natural. Like, anytime I've tried to watch other people and copy that style and try to be like more influencer-esque, or try to make these heavily edited videos as opposed to just talking like this and keeping it real and with mops behind me, it never came across natural. It always felt super forced and awkward, and I just hated it. Like, I haven't liked making videos in a while, because it feels like we're at a point with YouTube, and we're at a point with Instagram especially, and Instagram ushered this in, where it's so much about attention, where it's lost its purity. It's like everybody has to be shirtless all the time and showing off their physique, and 90% of them are on TRT, which there's nothing wrong with that. Like, this is another thing. Like, whenever I'm talking about PDs or TRT, I'm not casting down on anyone who's doing it. In that sense, I did it for 9 years. It was a part of my life. I know a lot about it. I work with tons of guys who are doing that, but I don't. So it's not like I'm judging in that sense. I'm saying I think it's wrong when there's this image presented by influencers and social media people where we see these physiques all the time that are very ripped and muscular, and they're doing 3-hour marathons and lifting weights and stuff, and they never say anything about being on TRT. They're not true about it. They almost present the case that they're natural. And we see this all the time. Like, we see this with people in the hybrid sphere and all of that, where these crazy physiques, and we see it in lifting, crazy physiques where they're lifting huge weights and they're ripped to the bone. And it's just very disingenuous, I should say. And so we see that. We see this in social media. It's all about shilling products and showing off your physique, showing off your big accomplishments, and editing the videos like crazy to hold people's attention and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, it's fake. And so I could never do that. I try to do it sometimes, like I would almost get into a wrong mindset, and I try to copy people and copy how they would make content or how they would present themselves. And it would just, I'd burn out in like a week. Like it wouldn't hit well, and I would burn out, and I just was like, this is so fake. And so Kelly reminded me, she's like, just do your own thing. Like, stop focusing on whatever anybody else is doing. Stop focusing on how they're making content or what they're doing, and do things how you want to do them. And this is what I did in the beginning when I was making those food videos in my apartment, showing my fridge and like showing my lifting and talking and all this stuff, just like this. I wasn't looking at what anybody else was doing or thinking about that presentation. I was doing my own thing. It was genuinely like just what I wanted to do. And so I send this message to you guys too, to as far as be careful who you emulate. And like, it's okay to have a certain degree of appreciation for other people, lifters or whoever it may be, but you have to be your own person. You know, pave your own way. We're all individual here. The Lord has created us all individually. We're all our own unique person. So pave your own way. Do things your way. You don't have to copy somebody else. I don't need to be copying how everybody else is doing things. Like I don't want to do the same things everybody's doing. I don't want to lift the same way everybody's lifting. I don't want to have to do the same training schemes everybody's doing. Like this whole concept where everybody's doing SPD days 1,000 times a week, I think it's a bad idea, first of all, and I'll get into that in a different video. But it's everybody's copying everybody else, the way they lift, the mannerisms, the setups, the style, the stuff they wear. Like that's why they're called influencers. Like, be your own person. You don't have to copy me. You don't have to copy anybody else. I'm not going to copy anybody else. You know, these videos, you don't see 1,000 cuts and 1,000,000 edits, and it's not like that. And that's because it just isn't me. It doesn't suit my style. So that may cause the channel to grow to a lesser extent, and I might not get as big of an audience or whatever, but it's like, this is it right here, guys. This is genuine. This is who I am. And I got to remember that. Like when my training, sometimes I used to judge myself. I'm like, I have all these issues in my hip and low back from squatting, so I'm not really squatting. And I'm like, am I really a power lifter anymore if I'm not squatting? If I'm not doing back squats, I'm just doing like deadlift and bench. I almost feel hard on myself. And I'm like, but that's not me. That's if I'm doing split squats, back extensions, deadlift and bench, and that's what I like to do, and that's what works for me, that's me. I don't have to be back squatting to get my self-worth and all that. And it sounds weird, but if you're a power lifter, you kind of get it. Like your total is almost everything to a point. Like that's what defines you in a lot of ways. Everybody's like, what's your total? How much are you doing on SPD? And so it's just important that we look inside ourselves and try to pave our own way and just do our own thing, and then focus on what we know is best for us, instead of necessarily just looking at these influencers, copying everything they're doing, feeling like we have to do that. Because it's disingenuous. I said that earlier, and it really is. It's like, there's still a couple people I kind of like to follow, but I'm also like, I can't be them. I can't copy them. I can't copy the way they're doing things. So be careful about copying someone. I've seen the thing like success leaves clues, and I get that, and you can learn things from people who are already successful. But at the same time, I think at the end of the day, the best advice is to do your own thing. Your life isn't like their life. Your life isn't like their life. Your circumstances aren't like their life. Your blessings are not like theirs. Everybody's different blessings. Your issues, your problems are not the same as theirs. They have different problems. They just don't post it. Nobody's posting their problems. Nobody's out here like, yeah, I was depressed again last week for the last week, and I get all my self-worth from Instagram likes, and I'm really lonely because everything's superficial and I'm by myself. And you're like, no one talks about that, but it's a real thing. You just don't see it. And everybody's got their struggle. And that's why, I feel more compelled to turn to the Lord with these things, because He's the only one who's going to straighten these paths out. When you try to seek it in the form of finances or a physique or accomplishments, it's a dead end. Like, I've achieved so many things where you get done with the achievement and you're looking at the next achievement, and it's an endless cycle because you're never satisfied, you're never fulfilled, you're never whole, and that's only something that can be provided by the Lord. So be careful when you're watching all this stuff. Be careful when you're watching other people. You don't see the bad stuff. You don't see any of that. So to try to emulate somebody in that sense is just not the best way to do it. We've all got struggles. We really do. Like, I have struggles in my head a lot, where it's almost like it was something I saw Chris Williamson talk about at one time, where he was like, I forget the name of it, but it was something where you almost feel like you question your abilities a lot of times, and your credibility and all that. And I still do that to an extent, because I'm not lifting exactly what I used to. I'm not lifting these massive weights. I'm not hitting the weights I once was. And obviously, you guys all know the circumstances with coming off PDs and the back pain and all that. But it still makes me, like, deep in my head, I question myself sometimes. So that stuff is normal, but you just don't see it. You don't see the struggles. People aren't really putting that out there in that manner. You just see the ripped physiques on, TRT telling you, stay natural. And it's like, I don't know. I'm ranting now. I'm going down, I'm going on. But let me know what you guys think of the video. I appreciate you guys. God bless. Thank you.